This is the one that had the word seed pocketed in it. And it's exactly what you think it's for. Hopefully I'm not reading into that. I'm gonna have lots of banter and cuteness and steamy historical romance scenes. I don't know if she's on like a medical trip or if she's had a lobotomy. I don't know. Heyo guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well, per usual. This week, I got my 24 for 2024. I saw everybody doing it and I figured I should maybe try to set that goal too. These are 24 books that I basically want to read in 2024, or I'm gonna say I'm going to attempt, but you know, I am a mood reader, so I hold no promises. But the books that I have, some of them, if you know me, you've been watching me for a little while, you know they're not much of a surprise. Other ones, you might not have heard of yet. So, starting off hot with something you probably already know is the Make Games. Make Games Series 3. So, this is gonna be the one, I'm pretty sure it's gonna have Death as our horsewoman for the apocalypse, which she was a cool character that you kind of got a little hint of at the end of Series 2. The ending of Series 2 wasn't my favorite, but I really did like all those books. And of course I loved the first series, so I have to continue on. It has Tor, by the way. So for those of you who really loved Alec in the first Make Games, you'll be happy. You have a Viking back. But there's also supposed to be a pirate in it. I think there's some ghosts, or he might be a pirate ghost, something like that. I haven't looked too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything or make my mind basically come up with its own storyline like it does when I read a synopsis. We're just gonna say Make Games Series 3, all 4 books. So we have 20 more books to go. The next is from the same authors. They basically teamed up again, and they have the Twisted Cross Ranch series, which by the time this video comes out, I should have already read the first book, so we'll see how it goes. All I really know of it is that it's not paranormal whatsoever, and that it's contemporary, and it's like a mafia cowboy ranch. So there's definitely gonna have trigger warnings. Look out for those. Obviously, it's gonna have the spice. Duh! It's from the people who did the Make Games, so there's clearly spice. But I'm hoping they're still gonna have like that humor and that levity that it has in the Make Games. I'm hoping it will be in this dark romance. So we shall see. It might be my perfect type of dark romance. I don't know, but it's gonna have my voice actor who played Caleb. I just wanna hear his voice, honestly. Anyways, next one. This is a continuation of a series that I started last year that I hated the romance, but I love the storyline. You might be able to guess it. To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. I want to read To Snap a Silver Stem, and then I forgot the name of the third book. So it's book 2 and book 3, but her writing style, the author Sarah, bangin'. Fantastic. And she knows how to do a world building. I'm excited from that aspect. The romance, we'll see if it's something that I will start to love, but I'm not looking for that side. I'm just looking for the writing style. But the next one is Circus Creeps. Is it Circus Creeps or is that the first one? Basically, it's book 2. The first one I read last year, that was the one where we have this girl who's like kind of like a half human, half succubus, and she's trying to get into this circus where essentially demons, monsters, all that jazz kind of come to, and some of them will actually be unalive during the show because they're basically trying to get back down into hell. There's this comedic aspect to it. It's definitely heavy on the spice, but I loved that all the men were very distinctly different. The characters didn't feel like they were a copy and paste of each other, so I really liked it. And it had those horror vibes, but it still had the levity of being more playful. So it kind of fit me perfectly. So I'm hoping the second book will be just as good, which I'm sure it will. It has the like Siamese cat freaking twins. They're the clowns. Loved them. So I want to see more of them. But speaking of that sort of like levity with those horror elements, we all probably remember me obsessing over Butcher and Blackbird. I said it right? But I loved Butcher and Blackbird. That was my favorite book of last year. And the second book comes out this year. So obviously, I'm gonna go with that. But that's Leather and Lark. This comes out, I wanna say in June. My Patronis are amazing, but I was so jealous that Jenny had Butcher and Blackbird as part of our Sisterhood of the Traveling book, because all of the notes in it were just so fun to have when I read it that I really wanna have that for this. So they all said that they're willing to wait for me to essentially send it to them so they can put their own notes in as they read the book. So I'm very excited about that. It's gonna be a very, very special book to me, so yeah. The next one, this is purely because it was a dare, and I'm not gonna back down. I'm an Aries. You dare me, I'm gonna freaking do it. So the cat book, I can't remember the name of it, something with the devil, but you heard me talk about it last year. April and I started it because the covers looked really funny and goofy, and it turned out to be a serious, more disturbed book about cats, and they're not cat shifters. Let's just be clear on that. These are just cats in the world, and you know, they're male cats. There's no female cats, and they like to still get it on and seek pleasure. And basically there's a hierarchy, and there's these more of the like naked style cats. The Sphinx cats are kind of like the lesser sort of beings, and they're treated as sex slaves. So one's trying to get transported to like another space, like this mafia mob dude wants this kitty cat to be transported and get used, have people pay for his services. And the guy that he hires is our detective boy, the devil, the Black Devil. Is that the name of the book? Might be. But he's going to transport him. But you know, they kind of get attracted to each other. And they have powers, if I remember correctly. It's a weird one. This is the one that had the word seed pocket in it. And it's exactly what you think it's for. Hence the name. I'm going to read that book to completion. And I want to do it as a vlog because I just want to catch my faces, because that book had stuff that even made me stop, okay? And that's difficult to do. So that will come in the future. The next one is part of that Peter Pan series. I want to say it's A Land of Never and Night. Here's the cover of the first book, but I still need to read book 3. So I want to finish that out. That's the one where you have our girl, modern day setting. Peter Pan takes her back to Neverland, and it felt so much like the Neverland that we grew up with like the Disney movies. So I really enjoyed the book because I just felt like I was back where I even knew what Neverland was, if that makes sense. She didn't try to build a new world. She had one that already exists in her head. And it's about loving Captain Hook over Peter Pan, because Peter Pan, of course, is the bad guy. So I enjoyed it. I thought the way that she wrote Peter Pan and the way she wrote Captain Hook, it was very believable. I liked all of the characters that we all have been introduced to, and it was just like a nice little spin while staying in the same world that we always had as a kid. The first book was the one where I enjoyed the whole thing. There's not even a kiss in it. Okay, it was literally no romance. It was just story building. This is a series though where she just cuts off the book right in the middle of basically the story. So just be aware of that. But I have enjoyed it. So I need to finish it off and read book 3. The next one, Knights of Iron and Ink. I got this last year. I'm obsessed with the cover. I wish it was a matte cover. But the whole premise of this definitely sounds like very much a fantasy romance. Very heavy on the fantasy. And essentially we have a girl who, it sounds like her appearance, she's not a beautiful girl. She sounds like she's in a position of where she's not quite a human. She has some sort of magic, but it sounds like she's stuck with the humans, and they're kind of like a slave essentially to the north and the south. To the north, there's these Fey lords, so very much putting their power on these humans, making them do whatever they need, and not really having any care for how the humans are actually taken care of. And to the south, the humans are kind of basically food for the demons, monsters that are hanging out in the south. So the humans kind of want to start a rebellion, get out of all this crap, because obviously this sucks. And our girl, she wants to join the forces of the individuals who are going to be fighting against those monsters. So this is like a Fey enforcer guard that kind of is training the army, I think. And she basically goes to try and like try out, but it doesn't really go well. She ends up trying to harm this Fey, which is one of the laws you cannot break. And instead of him taking her life, which he should have, he basically uses her to search out for this weapon that's kind of hiding in the shadows. They don't really know who or what it is yet, but he utilizes her in order to help find it. I think this is where her magic will come out. So they're going to start to kind of build their relationship, but she hates him for being a Fae. He hates her for A, attacking him, and B, being lesser than a Fae. So I'm imagining there's going to be some cool relationship dynamics. Definitely, obviously, enemies to lovers. But I feel like if this is written really well, this could have some cool dialogue, or at least I'm hoping it will. I'm excited. I hope it has some good action sequences and stuff too, but I'm not gonna lie, I really want to read it because the cover is pretty. You know, I can't help it. So there's that one, Knights of Iron and Ink. It is on KU, just so you know. Most of these honestly are on KU, but that's besides the point. The next one I talk about recently, it was called Awoke. I haven't read it yet, but again, Beautiful freaking cover. This is one that's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. I had mentioned before it's an urban fantasy romance, and that's typically just not my bag. I never really gravitate towards them. I never get sucked in, but the premise sounded sick, and the books it was relating it to, or the storylines it was relating to, wasn't freaking ACOTAR, because I'm sick of hearing that. But they actually related to, if you really like Sailor Moon, then you'll like this. So that did pique my interest. But this is the one about the girl who, it sounds like she's pulled into this realm or into this plane that has to do with essentially heaven and hell. So there's these grim reapers, and it sounds like there's a bunch, not just one, but there's these reapers who are kind of protecting Earth, I think, Earth and heaven from spirits who don't really want to move on. They're kind of attacking for whatever reason. There's some sort of aggression going on, and the reapers are the one kind of keeping them at bay. Our girl is going to come into all of this, and I think she's going to stop a war from looming because somehow the spirits, I think, are trying to start a war, or they've gotten more powerful to where they can. So her gifts are going to help fight against that, if that makes sense. It just sounds really good. And again, the cover's pretty. So, you know me. Me and book art. I love it. So the next one is actually another book that I got last year that I still haven't read. And I actually have a bunch of books by her, and I haven't read her yet. Her name's Ella Fields. So hopefully I really like her as an author. This one is called The Savage and the Swan. There's 3 that I have. I think the other one's like the villain one, and then something in the wildflower. But The Savage and the Swan, basically, it sounds like the guy, he's more of a villainish character. He's a wolf, and I don't know if she's like some sort of bird shifter or what, but he sounds like he's very hard, and he's basically, his parents were murdered, and his parents were murderers, so he's kind of grown up and been honed into a very hard individual. So he rules with an iron fist, or an iron paw, if you will, because he is a wolf. But our girl, she sounds like she's more naive, more delicate, which I like. I like seeing female characters where they're not always that damn sarcastic, same sort of archetype. I hate that. I want to see some other strengths within our natural feminine nature. That would be nice for once for me, because it feels like fantasy romance, it's always the same character. But her parents, it sounds like they were going to kind of marry her off to the wolf guy as like an appeasement, because he's going to destroy them. And she ends up running away because she doesn't want to do that, because he's basically ruined her life. All the things that he's been causing in her land, he's been causing a bunch of issues. I don't know if there's like a war or if he's just attacked or unalived people. Sorry, but she wants nothing to do with him. And as she's running away, she ends up running right into him. So that kind of starts their whole journey and their whole path. She decides then and there, since she can't help it, since destiny has already decided her fate, that she needs to come up with her own plan to basically work against him. But she does start falling with him. But the way it's worded on the synopsis in the back, it sounds like despite the fact that she's falling in love with him, she's not letting herself forgive what had happened, and she still wants retribution for what happened, even if it's going to cause her pain now. So I'm hoping it's going to be really good. I'm hoping it's well written, because the premise sounds like it can definitely have some interesting drama to it, which I really want. I like the idea that she's still basically seeking revenge, even though she's fallen in love with the guy. So she doesn't really want to hurt him, but she's not going to forgive him either. And her duty to her people is kind of surmounting her love for him. Hopefully I'm not reading into that, but that would be cool. So I want to read that. I would love to read the other books too if that ends up being really good. The next one, this is finally some historicals that I'm getting into, because I do love my historicals. They're my comfort reads. But this one, honestly, I actually don't have like a full complete premise off of what, like I haven't read the synopsis, basically is what I'm saying. I only know from what I heard from B or April, and I can't remember. Maybe it was, I can't even remember now. It's been a little bit since I've watched the videos about it. But the main thing, I'm pretty sure it's April. I don't know. Amelie Howard. She's one of my favorite authors, historical romance authors. So that's really what piqued my interest. I've always loved her books. I don't think there's been a book so far that I haven't liked. I haven't read all of her books, granted, but I really love her work. So that's why I really want to read it. But the main thing that I remember is that they had said, Our Lady is a Spy. Love that. I want her to be a spy because I don't get a lot of historicals where the spies are involved, especially when the lady is a spy. So I don't really have a synopsis for you. All I can tell you is Amelie Howard is a badass writer. She's phenomenal. Sounds like we're gonna have a strong badass woman, and it's gonna have lots of banter and cuteness and steamy historical romance scenes. Do you really need more detail? I don't know. I don't. So anyways, moving on, going back into more of the fantasy romance stuff. So this, honestly, it's the title that piqued my interest because I actually have read The Divine Comedy, which is a classic, surprisingly, that I have read that. I did enjoy it from what I remember. It is very intense, not the easiest to understand, but this is called Dante's Inferno. It's a complete retelling. Nothing, from what I can tell off the synopsis, is really like The Divine Comedy, but this is a spicy retelling of that. And I think a retelling, I don't know if that's right. I think it's probably more of like a loose interpretation. But we have Dante, Seraph Dante, I believe is her name. She's coming down to hell to find her former lover, Lucifer. So she has to descend through the 7 basically circles of hell, like you see in the Divine Comedy, and they're all related to the 7 deadly sins. Sounds like it's a reverse harem or a why choose, because as she descends into each circle, she's basically taken by each of the 7 deadly sins in order to find Lucifer, and she's going to get more information about him. So I don't know if she's finally going to understand that Lucifer is bad or what. And I'm kind of curious if, because it makes it sound like she was an angel, so I'm wondering if Lucifer was her lover when he was also an angel, and now he's going to be at the bottom of hell. You know? I don't know if I really can expect social commentary. I think the thing I'm almost kind of hoping for is there's still going to be this element of kind of like a good story that's going to kind of pique my brain a little bit. I like the idea of the spice. I think that's fun. I have fun with it. I hope it's enjoyable, but I kind of still want that storyline, whether it's the social commentary or something, whether it's like a mystery related or something for my brain to kind of put pieces together and make it click, and not just kind of have that one and done enjoyment of when you just kind of read a spicy scene. I want there to be a good story in it. We'll see. I don't know. Okay, anyways, the next one. So the next one I want to read, this sounds like it could be a lot of fun. It's basically a mix of historical romance and fantasy romance, but we have a classic historical romance storyline from what I can tell. It's set in the early 1800s, sounds like Gaslamp London, and there are fae involved. So it's basically your historicals with some magic. But we have a guy who sounds like he has an issue with gambling, and owes money to some lenders, and they're kind of coming after him. But he was just recently at this big party, and he noticed that there was this ginormous diamond that was slipped into his pocket. So he's really worried about it, but he also needs money. And his mother just passed away, and in order to get money out of the will, he has to be married. So he ends up seeking out a marriage of convenience. But because of this diamond that it looks like he has stolen, that's been slipped into his pocket, he kind of goes into hiding. So he goes to this estate that kind of odd characters start to pop up at. I don't know if it's abandoned or if it's just kind of like a quirky estate that has quirky people who own it that throw quirky parties. But our girl ends up coming, and I think she's coming to be like a maid or something. But that's where it's going to kind of start with our marriage of convenience sort of relationship. But the estate has attracted this fae prince who starts kind of using his powers on this girl that this guy needs for his marriage of convenience. So it sounds like it could be fun and cute and quirky. I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to have like the cute sweetness of a historical, and then just kind of some neat aspects, and hopefully a little bit more of like the classic creepy vibes of the fae. I'm not too sure, but it sounded like it could be fun and like a cool blend, so I wanted to try it out. But the next one, I have 4 left. The next one is The Ship of Blood and Curses, which sounds like a badass name. I think this is one that is kind of like a Pirates of the Caribbean retelling. Yeah, this is the one that's like Pirates of the Caribbean. So the synopsis doesn't give a lot away, which is good for me because I already mentioned how I have issues getting carried away in synopses. But basically, we have a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of vibe. We have pirates that are taking over this ship that holds these people, one of which is a woman and her father. The woman, she has some sort of power within her. She's like an ancient vessel of something. And the pirates that actually come onto the ship are like these pirate sort of vampire things. And it sounds like they're controlled by a god or something like that. I can't tell if the captain is this god, but it mentions that he used to be human, but then he's now been turned. He has this curse of essentially being this bloodthirsty vampire. So him and her are going to end up coming together in some form or fashion. It doesn't mention if it's an enemies to lovers or if they're actually going to be working together against something, but it sounds like he doesn't like his life. And the sheer fact that she's being mentioned as some sort of super powerful vessel means there's got to be some big epic event that's going to be happening in the book. But that's all it really talks about. So fans of Pirates of the Caribbean will love the world of ship and blood and curses. So I'm down to give it a shot. I'm hoping it's well written. It is, of course, on Kindle Unlimited. So I don't really know yet, but I'll give it a shot. I mean, pirates, vampires, fingers crossed it's good. Oh yeah, the next one. Okay, the next one. I am so sorry. I did not have it written down which one of you has recommended this, but I know you've been talking about it forever and I still haven't read it. So I need to get to it this year. But you mentioned Infectious Crimson, and I believe you mentioned it because of like the blood, the gore that is within it. So I do want to give that story a shot. To be honest, this one, I think this is the prequel to the series, but I can't really tell what it's about. The synopsis isn't really giving a lot away, and the cover of it also doesn't really give much away at all either. So I don't really have much to say. I just know that it's been recommended over and over, so I want to give it a shot. All right, but I don't quite know what it's about, but I'm positive that you mentioned it. You really loved the book. You thought it was really, really good, and I want to say it had to do with blood. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. Anyways, the next one. So this one actually sounded like it could just be wicked fun, if I'm being honest, but it's called Descend into Madness. It's an Alice in Wonderland retelling. It's a play on it. But honestly, just the way that the synopsis is written on Amazon, there's just some neat concepts within it. So I have heard this before, so I know this isn't, I guess, completely original, but it's basically Alice is being treated as if she's psychotic, so she's in a psych ward. But it does sound like she finds her way back to Wonderland somehow. I don't know if she's on like a medical trip or if she's had a lobotomy. I don't know. But what it mentions in it, it mentions the twins, it mentions the rabbit, all of that fun stuff. But the thing that it actually kind of tickled me, if you will, is it talks about that there's going to be like rhyming within it. It's going to have like really interesting alliteration throughout it. So it sounds like it could be written in a really fun manner while still having like steamy scenes and also still playing off the whole Alice in Wonderland concept. So I do actually think I want to read that, especially since the Alice in Wonderland readathon that I'm hosting over on my Patreon, which if I haven't mentioned it yet, because I have no idea when my videos are coming out, I'm so all over the place since the funeral. But that's gonna be starting in like mid-March. So if you wanna be a part of that, the paid tier, you win free artwork as you finish prompts for books. But the free tier also is able to be a part of the readathon if you want to join it. I'll leave the Patreon link down below. But it's an Alice in Wonderland theme. So I think I wanna read that while I'm doing that, because that would be fun. So there's that. And then the last one is The Highwaymen by Kerrigan Byrne, I believe. But this was a super freaking popular historical romance, I think, last year. A lot of people said that it was really steamy. I don't actually know the full premise of the book, but I just know that people said it was really good. So I'm gonna try it. That's all I'm really gonna leave you with. I'm not gonna look into the synopsis too much because I want to just try it based off of what people said. I don't want to try and get any expectations, I guess. So that's it. Those are my 24 books. I'm sure there's other books that I want to read that I don't even have on this list, but we're just going to stick with this. And hopefully I read all of them, but no promises. Okay, I'm being gentle with myself as I read. And ever since the funeral and whatnot, I've been having a hard time. So I don't know. We'll see when I get to it. We'll see how many books I read this year. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Again, if you guys want to do the Alice in Wonderland readathon, if this video is up before that, it starts in mid-March. There'll be more details on it on the Patreon. Again, you can be a free member or a paid member. Both individuals get to participate. So links down below for that. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Okay, I'm tired of talking. I need a drink. Bye.